Em. Welcome back, or if this is your first time, welcome to my channel. You're gonna be the first to see this banner that I had made for the author event that I'm attending in July. If you're in Savannah or have ever wanted to go to Savannah, come see me at Literary Love Savannah in July. We're going to have a lot of fun. There's going to be karaoke and a masquerade ball and all kinds of cool stuff going on besides just the usual book tables and signings. Something like 60 authors are going to be there. Totally worth a visit. So come on by. And the anthology, the YA anthology for Literary Love Savannah will have an exclusive Drew and Ray's story in it. You don't want to miss that. My cat is a little weirded out by the banner, as you might guess. He's like, what is this now? Why is this appearing in my space? You know how cats are. Anyway, today the plan was to talk about some movies I've watched recently. This year is the first year that I'll be tracking film and television that I'm watching, as well as books. I won't be tracking the film and television stuff with as much detail. I'm just writing down what I'm watching. I'm not keeping track of minutes, like length, or the year it came out, or anything like that, or even genre. I'm just keeping a list of things that I'm watching so that at the end of the year I'll be able to look back and go, oh yeah, I liked that movie, I watched that movie, whatever. And anyway, in the meantime, the idea is that when I'm not reading as much because of all of my writing projects, of which I have like 4 or 5 right now, I will still have something to talk to you guys about, film or television wise, and my channel doesn't go fallow. As for books, those of you who are here for vampire stuff will be glad to know that I plan my Queen of the Damned reread to start in February. So if you want to reread with me, make sure you have a copy of the book ready. I am going to go through it and figure out what kind of chunks I want to read it in, 5 chapters at a time or whatever, and then do a video every few chapters to discuss what's going on in the book. So you'll want to be here for that, and if you want to read along, please do, and we can discuss. With that said, I'm going to go through, I've watched 5 movies already this year, which is a lot for me. But Oscars are coming, I'm trying to catch up on at least some of the buzz, and I'm going to have the movies and the timestamps in the description box so that if you haven't seen a movie or you're not interested in hearing about a movie, you can skip to any of the ones that you are interested in or have watched. Because I can't promise you there won't be spoilers. I'm not going to go into detail about plots in any of these, but I can't promise you that I won't somehow spoil something. So if you don't want to know anything about the movie, you should just skip it. Okay? And sorry, again, the cat is everywhere. He's over here, he's on my lap, he's making the camera wobble. And that's just life with cats, I guess, so bear with me. So I'm going through these movies chronologically as I've watched them, so that's the order. And the first movie I watched this year was White Noise. That is Noah Baumbach's adaptation of the Don DeLillo book. I read the book as an undergrad for a class. I've read 2 Don DeLillo books. I've read White Noise and End Zone. I remember liking End Zone, and I couldn't remember much of White Noise until the movie started, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember, this was just weird. This movie stars Adam Driver as the main character, whose name I cannot even remember. He is a Hitler Studies professor at the College on the Hill, which is the name they use. That is usually an epithet for Yale, I believe, but it's not clear if they're at Yale or if this is just some fantasy version of that. They seem to be in, I don't know, New England somewhere, maybe Vermont or something. I can't remember. It's a very strange movie, and I have a hit or miss history with Noah Baumbach. I did not like The Squid and the Whale. I did like the Meyerowitz stories or whatever that was. Sorry, I'm itchy because the cats fur as I pet him is flying into my face. So this one was okay. It's very stagey, and I mean that's on purpose. So it's set in 1984, and Adam Driver's character is the college professor, and his wife is a position-like teacher, like basically the equivalent of some kind of yoga instructor. And she has this deep, abiding fear of death, and so she's taking medication for her anxiety, but she's trying to hide the fact that she's taking this medication. And they have a big blended family. They have like one child that's theirs, and then she has some from a previous marriage, he has some. And so it's just all very strange, and some like bio event happens where a train crash causes noxious gases into the air, and they have to flee their home, and then they finally get to come home, and then other things go on. It's weirdly disjointed, and like I said, stagey in that like the first lines of dialogue in the movie when they're talking, I remember thinking, are they rehearsing a play? Is this like them like doing lines because one of them is gonna be in a play or something? But then it was like, no, that's just how they talk in this movie. They talk like they're in a play, and it's all very like weirdly cadenced and stagey. The end credits is a big kind of dance scene in a supermarket, which was probably my favorite part of the movie. Don Cheadle's in this as a really fun another professor, just kind of a side character. You see him spontaneously. He and Adam Driver do a kind of lecture off. Don Cheadle's character is talking about Elvis, and obviously Adam Driver's character is going on about Hitler. And it's all very strange and weird, and I didn't hate it, but it's not something I ever need to watch again either. It didn't fully hold my attention. I always kind of have to keep track of how much time I'm just looking at my phone and half paying attention to a movie. This movie, it was, kind of 50-50. It just wasn't like a complete attention draw. For me, it was okay. Not a bad way to start the year. It was fine. The second movie I watched this year is Don't Worry, Darling, which was awful. The real problem with this movie is that there's like a germ of like potential in it, and then it doesn't do anything original or very interesting. It focuses on all the wrong things. So here we go. The main character is Alice, and she's in a 50s-esque housewife situation, a development out in the desert, and she has this husband who, all the husbands in this special development, which I think is called Victory, they have to leave at the same time every morning, and all the housewives do their housewife things. They get together for brunch, and they all clean their houses, and they make their dinners, and it's all very Stepford in a way, and it's supposed to be kind of an idealistic community/situation. And the leader of this community, who employs all these men, is played by Chris Pine, but we don't really see him a whole lot. His wife in this is Gemma Chan. We don't see her a whole lot. And there's just a lot of wasted talent in this movie. You're like, wow, they have all these great people and they barely use them. And, Alice starts... Well, one of Alice's neighbors is having kind of a breakdown, and then Alice starts to have this breakdown. She's starting to realize that this life is not all it seems to be, or whatever, and it goes from there. Like, the Chris Pine character's like, ooh, I like a challenge. Now, here's the problem. The Chris Pine character, the guy who set up this whole community, if early on in the movie he had said to Alice, I like a challenge, and that the whole rest of the movie had been a battle of wits as she tried to outwit him and figure out the truth about the community and make it public. That would have been good, but it just doesn't go anywhere. Then we jump into the real world, because as it turns out, this is kind of a Matrix-y Sims thing that they're living in, and the men have plugged their girlfriends and wives into it, and they are none the wiser because they've moved to this place. They don't seem to know that they're actually just in the real world plugged in somewhere, until they start to realize that they are, and then they have to be kind of reset and replugged in. I don't know. It's just you're almost well, the real world stuff would have been more interesting if we had seen more of that and what was going on out there and how this was happening. But we don't get that either. Harry Styles is fine, I guess. He's pretty bland in this film. I'm not some big fan of his. I don't listen to his music or anything like that, so I'm not sure I've ever seen him in anything but this. So I don't really, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do except be a doting husband, / real world incel who plugged his girlfriend into this fictitious world in order to, save their relationship, because she was working as a nurse and working all the time, and he was kind of this deadbeat, who was spending all his time online and got sucked in by the Chris Pine guy. Anyway, that would have been an interesting story to see, but we only really get glimpses of it. And the bottom line is, it was a waste. It was a lot of wasted potential and talent, and really boring. Just really boring because of the things it chose to linger on and focus on. And instead of ramping it up, it drew things out. So then we went for something a little different, different tone. We decided to watch The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, and briefly Brad Pitt, which is funny because, well, I'll talk about it in a couple movies. But and this is cute. It's very much like a modern day adaptation of Romancing the Stone. Daniel Radcliffe plays this fun villain character who I swear he was channeling Prince Harry for or something, but it was highly entertaining when he was on screen. Love me some flamboyant Daniel Radcliffe. Give me more of that. And it's cute. Sandra Bullock plays a romance novelist, and Channing Tatum is her cover model. They've done 20 books together. She honestly can't stand him because he's kind of a himbo, and she's actually highly educated, but nobody wants to read her treatise on ancient civilizations, so she turned it into a romance writing career. She's been widowed for 3 years. Her husband was an archaeologist, I think. Kind of some Agatha Christie-esque stuff going on there, I guess. But and so anyway, she writes this novel about this famous crown that's been lost to history, and Daniel Radcliffe kidnaps her because he actually has found the lost city where this crown is supposed to be, but he needs Sandra Bullock's help to find the actual crown or whatever. And then Channing Tatum and hires Brad Pitt, and the two of them go to rescue Sandra Bullock. But then there's the whole Lost in the Jungle thing, and there are plenty of beats and callbacks to Romancing the Stone. If you like Romancing the Stone, you'll think this is just as cute, I think. I mean, it's maybe not quite as charming, but that just might be my bias. I loved Romancing the Stone as a kid. It was one of the things that made me want to be a novelist. So I loved, Michael Douglas and the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a super cute movie. It's worth a watch. It's nothing special, but if you like that kind of thing, and there are far fewer of these kinds of movies these days, it's really hard to find a good rom-com adventure type movie anymore. It's a good one. It's cute. And then if you're like me and you love Edgar Allan Poe, then when you heard about The Pale Blue Eye, you were like, oh, I gotta watch that. And so I did. It's Christian Bale as, I don't know, some kind of detective, I guess, in the mid-1800s, and in and around West Point, which Edgar Allan Poe was a cadet at West Point briefly in his life. And so what we get is some murders at West Point, and Edgar Allan Poe teaming up with the Christian Bale guy. I'm just calling everybody by their actor names because I cannot be bothered to remember the names of characters in these movies. And I mean, honestly, I think it just goes to show that, like, you haven't written, like, a character that really lives in my brain if I can't remember the character's name and I'm just like, oh, it's so-and-so, it's Brad Pitt or whoever, right? So give me some characters that I can invest in. But anyway, The Pale Blue Eye, I have to say, like, I did pay attention. Like, this was less phone time than an average movie. Because it's the kind of thing where you want to pay attention to what's going on. It's kind of a mystery. It's very noirish, you know. And there's some, like, occult stuff underlying it, and it was interesting. I mean, you know, I love seeing Gillian Anderson do anything, really. And nice to see Dudley Dursley getting work. So it's really interesting because it was like old home week for Harry Potter actors, because we had Daniel Radcliffe in The Lost City, and we had, now for once I only know him by his Harry Potter character, Dudley Dursley. I feel so bad. The actor deserves to have his name. I'll put it on the screen, but, like, the actor deserves to be known by his name, not by the one character. And Peter Pettigrew is in The Pale Blue Eye as well. Like, anyway. How did Christian Bale never end up in a Harry Potter movie, though? I guess he's just a little too solemn for that. I don't know. Anyway, it's beside the point. So this was okay. It's based off a book, and I haven't read the book, and I feel like it probably was better as a book, honestly. There's, like, a twist ending that I didn't feel was entirely necessary, but my husband really liked it, so goes to show what I know. Maybe it's just not written for me. I am not the intended audience. I don't know. But yeah, so basically there's a murder of a cadet, and his heart is cut out after his body is found, I think. And then they find some hearts cut out of animals in and around West Point, or towns nearby or something. I love West Point only because I got to visit because they were a client of mine when I was helping make their textbooks. They obviously need very specialized textbooks, and I got to visit, and it's beautiful. Just throwing that in there at random, but, like, you know, like, oh, I have some kind of relation to the material. Obviously, this West Point was not. The current West Point is very different. I kept looking at it and going, that's not what it looked like, but whatever. It was okay. It was a passable mystery. I didn't see the twist coming, mostly because I didn't feel like this was the kind of movie that needed a twist ending. Like, I was like, oh, you know, I was satisfied with the ending point that would have been had the twist not been revealed. I'm not sure. I mean, they did plant some stuff to try and make it maybe the audience able to deduce the twist. I don't know. You watch it. Tell me if you... Of course, I didn't know there was going to be a twist. Maybe if I knew there'd been a twist, I'd have been paying more attention and looking for that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was okay. It was okay. And finally, last night I watched Bullet Train. Yay! And this movie was a lot of fun. I mean, it was exactly what I expected from this movie. So, you know, it's Brad Pitt. You get Channing Tatum for a hot minute. You get Sandra Bullock on the phone, and then you see her at the end of the movie. But, like, I was like, hey, I just saw these guys in The Lost City. So, I was just like, oh, that's kind of fun. This is based on a Japanese novel. Again, not one I've read, although watching the movie made me kind of want to read the book. It's a fun pseudo heist, lots of double crossing things. If you like the first season of Umbrella Academy, and if you like yourself some Cha-Cha Hazel energy versus Five kind of thing, if you like that, then you would like this. This is basically like that's the vibe. That's the vibe. Cha-Cha Hazel versus Five, fighting, very stylistic, a lot of fun, a lot of things to keep track of. But yeah, overall, it was a really entertaining movie. This is a movie that I didn't necessarily need to pay a lot of attention to, but I found myself wanting to watch it because just visually it was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, I mean, I think it's probably of the five I've just listed, it was probably the one I enjoyed the most so far this year. Maybe just because it was exactly what I expected and was in the mood for. And sometimes that's just what you want, just this kind of like fun, lots of stuff going on, lots of action, and I mean, very stylistic violence. It's probably it was pretty violent at times. But I don't like gore, and yet I was able to tolerate this because I don't mind it when it's stylized. Like one of my favorite movies is The Kingsman, the first Kingsman movie, and obviously that has some violence in it, but again, very stylized, so it kind of doesn't bother me the way like realistic or gory violence does. So those are the 5 movies I've watched so far this year. And the other thing I watched is The Crown Season 5. And I mean, I really, really enjoyed The Crown the last 4 seasons, but we've gotten to the point now that we're near history-wise, it feels more like a highlight reel. It feels like we're not delving or anything. And maybe that's just because it's so recent, they don't feel like they need to delve, because they're like, oh, well, most people who are watching this would know this anyway, or I don't know. There seems to be a tonal shift, and I didn't enjoy it as much. I don't know. It's funny because usually when The Crown comes out, I watch it like right away, and this year I just didn't feel the need to, and maybe that was just, I feel inundated with royal family news these days. There's just a lot. They're in the news a lot. So maybe it just didn't feel like, ooh, it's something I can't get anywhere else. It's like, no, it's everywhere. I don't need to watch a show about it too. But, it was okay. It lacked a certain amount of depth for me that I would have otherwise wanted from it, I guess. But anyway, that is that covers all of my viewing for the first couple weeks of January. And let me know what you've been watching, or if there's anything you think I should watch. I've got a long list of stuff I want to watch, and even some stuff I need to finish, like series that I haven't finished. But I think one thing that was suggested to me was Bad Sisters on Apple TV, I think it is. So that's on my list. I think that's probably going to be my next TV viewing. And then as for movies, I don't know yet. I've got a long list that my husband and I are working our way through. And then some of them, family movie nights with the kids, we're doing that too. We rewatched 16 Candles. That did not hold up. And I hadn't seen that movie since I was like 10 or 11, and honestly, I shouldn't have been watching it that young. But we decided to rewatch it because we'd shown them Ferris Bueller's and we'd shown them Breakfast Club. And so we thought, okay, well, 16 Candles. And, Ferris Bueller was fine. Breakfast Club held up okay, but 16 Candles, not so much. I had forgotten most of what had gone on in that movie, and I was like, much as we all love John Hughes, that one, nah, I don't need to watch it again. But anyway, enough rambling. I'll see you. I'm reading a couple books that I will talk about when I'm done with them. And like I said, the reread of Queen of the Damned is coming up. Don't know yet if I'm going to watch Mayfair Witches. If you think I should, I read Witching Hour and Lasher and didn't read anything beyond those as far as the Mayfair Witches go. So if you think I should watch the show, let me know and we can see if it's worth it. I hated Mona, and I feel like Mona ends up being like the focus character for the whole Mayfair thing, and so I don't know if she's gonna be this, like, if she's gonna be the focus. I don't know if I can do it. Okay, anyway, for real, we're done, and I will see you when I see you. Take care.